Hey, party people. Welcome to my online classroom. Today we have another subscriber requested video, how to illustrate print fabrics. Print fabrics. And there are a lot of print fabrics out there. And there are a lot of different ways to render print fabrics. And so, as you may have guessed, this is going to be the first in a series on print fabrics. You know, it's going to be like the hair series where I show you guys the basics and then I show you guys examples of a million different hairstyles and explain things further with every video. I've been teaching illustration for years now, and over the course of the semesters and working with different students, I've put together a checklist of what to do when confronted with a difficult printed fabric. And I'm going to share that with you today. Number one, you're going to select your media and colors. You're going to select your media based on a lot of different factors. Maybe it's your client brief. Maybe it's what you have in the house. Maybe it's what your teacher told you to use for your assignment. If you can swing it, maybe it's all about what you think will represent the print the best. When you have fabrics like these, where the designs just have clean, hard edges, and all you need to do is draw in the designs and color them in. You can pretty much use any medium you want, paint, marker, what have you. If you have something fuzzy, like for example, this crazy thing, okay? Or this fuzzy thing, or this one, maybe you're going to use a lot of color pencil. Like you can see that using a soft color pencil to get this fuzzy woolly look would be better for you than, say, using a yellow gel pen or even a really skinny yellow paintbrush. And for something that's really, really fuzzy like this, maybe you're going to leave things really loose so things do look fuzzy and hairy. So pick media that work for you. When you have a fabric like this, whoa, some people have dust bunnies in their house. I have thread bunnies everywhere. They're everywhere. When you have a fabric like this, where the color bleeds and is really soft and there are hardly any crisp edges, then maybe painting is the way to go. To have like a soft, wet on wet, bleedy technique to achieve this look instead. It's harder to get soft bleeds like this with marker. For today's demo, I selected this fairly easy safety pin print. I will tackle harder prints in the future, but I thought I'd get started with a basic today. There's pros and cons to every medium, and definitely the thing about markers is, other than that you can't get the soft bleedy effects, is it's harder to mix colors. Now, this is this kind of pink that has these sort of this purpley undertone. It's a very cool pink. It's not quite that color. It's like, you know, in between. It's like this one is a little too light. This one is a little bit too pink, right? If I was doing this for a class or for a client, I would definitely go out and get a better matching marker for the final. And if you have questions on how to shop for markers, I have a whole video to help you, and I'll drop a link in the info box. But for the demo today, I'm just going to stick to what I have. Now, this black and white design, it's not fuzzy, it's not hairy, it's not bleedy. So I'm going to use this black ink pen, really skinny, to draw my little safety pins. And I'm going to use a white gel pen to draw my little white safety pins. Now that you selected your colors and your media, you're going to draw your garment. This is like a kind of a medium weight cotton poplin with a teeny tiny bit of stretch in it. You can see that. Now, usually when I'm drawing the design on my final paper, I'm not putting in darts or tucks or any of those construction seam things until the very end. However, when you are illustrating a print, You need to put those things first, because let's say you've got a flower in the middle of your torso, and let's say you have a dart right there. Your fabric better look like it's pinched in, or your garment is going to look super flat. You know, take the case of any kind of stripe, plaid, check, gingham, you know. If you have a dart in the middle there, things get pinched in, lines disappear and then reappear, because that's what the fabric does. So go ahead and put those darts in so that you can pinch in the fabric accordingly. Longtime viewers know that when I'm working with marker paper, I like to draw on the wrong side and render on the right side, unless I'm working with a lot of asymmetrical garments. So here's the deal. This one was kind of a better color match when we were checking out the media before, but this is not a great marker for filling in large spaces. It soaks the paper up with too much ink. It's really streaky. This really is better for calligraphy and small detail work. It's got a nice, really sharp tip for that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to apply all the shadows before I start drawing all the little safety pins. A couple of different reasons. Number one, if you're going to use a lot of ink work on top, if you try to add shadows later, you're either going to smear it, or you're going to try to get in between all the spaces and you're going to create little strange gaps. If you're doing a lot of detail work with color pencil on top, you're going to pick up all that waxy stuff from your color pencil and clog the tips of your markers with it. So that's not going to work either. So put in your shadows first. Sometimes when you have a really large design like this one, you know, I would do the white, I would do the gray shadows for the white, and then I would later on, because the pink and the green take up so much space, shadow some of the pink and the green, but definitely lay down your background shadows first. Now, most of you know about my 3 kinds of shadow method. If you don't, I will drop a link in the comments, in the info box below. Go check that out. Armpits are always dark. I'm going to add a little bit more gray and try to keep toning down that pink color. Okay, much better. So yeah, you can layer markers together to see if you can mix the right color. So you should do that before you start launching off to the store. I still don't think that this is a great match, but this should be the first thing that you do. The next step is you have to scale down the print. The best way to scale down the print is to do a palm-to-palm comparison. If this is the size of your croquis hand, you know, palms are pretty much as long as they are wide. So this is as long as the palm is, so that's how wide the palm is. We're going to take your fabric and you're going to lay your palm on it. Many people have very similar size palms, tall, short, fat, thin, what have you. But if you have really, really large hands, like I had a student last semester who was I'm guessing over 6 feet tall, and he had a giant, like I can palm a basketball hands, then you might want to, you know, shrink it up a little bit. But for the most part, lay your palm on top of the design. Now, you'll notice that my palm covers these 4 pairs of safety pins. See? Bam. And so that's how big your print is going to be on this figure. So if this is my palm, then I'm splitting it into quarters, and my safety pins are in little X's. And so that's going to be the size of the print on my illustration. Like if you have a really large print like this, Still lay your palm on it, but notice, oh, hey, this one goes all the way up to my knuckles, and it's like 1.5, 1.25 this way, right? And so for this, if my palm was this size, then it's 1.5, 1.25, and so this is the general size of this flower. So use your palm to scale your print down to size. The next thing we have to address is the direction the print is going. This is going to be especially important with any kind of stripe or plaid, but you definitely want to follow the rhythm and repeat of the pattern, and you need to follow the grain line of your garment. So I have a little secret to share with you guys. I'm working on a book on how to render prints, and I'm going to go over everything in this video, but in more depth in my book. And honestly, some people learn better in book format than video format. I've prepared these diagrams to show you where the grain line is on many garments and how to lay the direction of your plaids and prints so that they look accurate. In the meanwhile, my recommendation is for you to pick up a pattern making book and follow the grain lines on the pattern making book. So something like this, my grain line is going this way. Okay, my center front is doing this, so my grain line is doing this, right? Now this is the selvage. Okay, you can see the selvage is going in this direction. This is the size, so the size is about this big. And so your safety pins are going to be this big, and they're going to be going in this direction, right? However, because of these gathers down here, they're going to start getting crunched into each other. As the fabric gathers. For the sleeve, your sleeve grain line goes along the center of your arm like this. And so your grain line is here for the sleeve. And so again, here's that scale again. And there are your safety pins in that direction. I'm going to start with the white one because if I make a mistake, it's less visible. And then once I get good at it, then I can add the black ones. The last step in assessing your fabric is to figure out how much of the detail to render. When you have a fabric like this, do you think that you're going to draw every single one of these dots? Take a closer look at this fabric. Do you see these brown and white lines that are changing direction all over the background of this fabric? Do you think you're going to be rendering those as well? No. Unless you're illustrating something that's going to be larger than life size, no one's really going to notice these brown and white lines. My rule of thumb is to take your fabric, throw it on a mannequin, and step back 8 feet and draw as much detail as you see. When you have something like this, you're going to see the dark orange flowers, the brown flowers, and then the flowers that are just navy outlines. You're going to see a light brown background, and you're going to see these sprays of dots as these sort of like hazy, grainy things. When you look at something like this, you're not going to get in there and do every single little pixelated flower. You're going to give me splotches of different pinks and greens in the right color proportions. You need to simplify in a way that still looks accurate. And yeah, that's one of those things that takes practice. If it's going to help you, you can just take your little tracing paper mock-up, lay it under your marker paper, or if you're working with a thicker paper, you can throw it on a light box. The white safety pins make an X, and the black safety pins make a diamond. So yeah, I'm not gonna draw all these little things and draw this little pink line gap and draw these little gaps. Forget it. I don't have time for that. And then this is where it gets squishing down, right? And this gets tucked in. And then it gets squished towards the bottom, right? I want to squish it a little bit more, actually. It's a little bit more bulbous towards the center of each X. And then I'm going to take my black, and they're going the other way, so the heads are facing each other. Downward. These are going upward. Things are getting squished. And you know, when you get to these points down here, it's okay if things start looking a little bit messed up, because when you start gathering this fabric, things get a little bit messed up looking. That's what happens. Not everything is all smooth and flat like it would be, you know, across the chest. I'm going to loosely fill this in. And you're like, hey, Zoe, do I need to fill in all this stuff? Like, what if I'm doing a giant maxi coat and do I have to fill in the whole print? Okay. I'm going to say generally you're going to want to pull in about 80% minimum for the print. And you want to put the print all over so that you have, like, you know, some small empty spaces scattered throughout. Because you want it to look like it's an all over print. You don't want it to look like this is, you know, a design that is only placed in one spot. If I leave this like this, this is gonna look like, oh, maybe she has some beading there and that's the placement for the beading or embroidery. It doesn't look like an all over fabric pattern. And with this, you definitely want to make it look like an all over fabric pattern. And then remember, this one goes this way. This way, and this way, this way, and this way. No. Don't forget to go all the way to the edges. You don't want to create that strange halo effect. Add some other random broken lines here. All of that is getting gathered in there. Unless you know for a fact that both those seams are perfectly straight lines, you don't need to worry about patterns meeting at the seams. When you have a plaid like this, you are definitely going to be able to have the center front match the yellow stripe because it's a straight line on your pattern and on your body. But the rest of it, like underarm seams, waist seams, princess seams, sometimes the center back seam will be curved. Those seams will not match. All right, and then now we go back in and we put in the rest of the garment again. So. And there is your complete printed fabric garment. All right, let's recap. Number one, select your media and your colors based on the project that you're doing, based on your client brief, your teacher's assignment, whatever assignment you gave yourself. Most importantly, the kind of media that will give you the effect that you are looking for. Number two, draw your garment, draw the drapes, and draw any kind of construction that will affect how the print is laid out on your garment, such as darts, pinching in for tucks and pleats and drapes and scrunching. Next, you're going to fill in your background color and the shadows for the background color. After that, you're going to scale down the print using a palm to palm ratio on your fabric. You're going to scale it down. You're going to draw a little rough draft on a scrap piece of paper so that you can use it as a reference later. Next, you're going to figure out the direction your pattern needs to be in according to the grain line of your fabric. If you're not very familiar with making clothes, but you're going to draw a lot of clothes, I would highly recommend that you pick up a pattern making book. You can pick up a used one for not that much. They're all over Amazon. And use that as a reference for how the clothes fit on the body, wrap around the body, and fall from the body. Let's say you want to take this safety pin pattern. Safety pin pattern. And you're going to put it on a pair of pants, and you want to know how the grain line works on different kinds of pants. You can open up your pattern making book, look in the table of contents, and take you right to the pants. You can figure out where the grain line goes, how it sits on the body, and then you can lay down your pattern, scale down in the direction it's supposed to go. Now that you have the size, you have the direction, you're going to assess how much of the little details you're going to include in your rendering by taking your fabric, putting it up on a corkboard or a mannequin, and stepping back 8 feet. You're shrinking it down, and so you're going to be shrinking down everything and also minimizing a lot of the details that can't be seen, or minimizing it in a way that is simplified, not that they disappear completely. That rule, the 8-foot rule, was created for fashion designers in mind, where we are drawing 10, 12 inches tall. If you are doing a larger scale illustration, then think accordingly. If your rendering is only about half the size of a human, then you're going to have to show a lot more detail. So, plan ahead with how large your specific illustration is going to be. Do a little test swatch. Make all the mistakes on a scrap fabric. You don't want to come in here when all your other lovely things are rendered and then screw up the whole illustration by using the wrong pen, forgetting the scale, etc., etc. Do a test swatch and then have at it. This is where you're like freaking out because I just dropped so much information in your labs, and you're like, I hate life. I don't want to be a fashion illustrator anymore. I don't want to be a designer anymore. And trust me, I've heard all these things in class. Zoe, I hate plaids. I'm never designing with plaid ever again. Sucks to you, because plaid is pretty much always in fashion. Think of a time period where plaid was not cool to wear. It doesn't even have to be a 90s revival for it to be okay to wear plaid. Plaid is always somewhere. But no, students will be like, oh my God, plaid is so hard. I don't want to design with it ever. No, just practice, okay? I'm not teaching you guys these things and telling you all this information so that it can seem incredibly daunting to be a fashion illustrator. I'm giving you all this information so that you have all the information. As usual, hit the subscribe button for future uploads regarding the print series. Drop me questions. I'm sure you have some. Drop me questions below. Check out the links that I put in the info box that I think will be helpful for you guys. Yeah, I know it's a lot, and this is an advanced sort of thing, but we're going to do it together, okay? I am going to figuratively hold your hand through this, and you're going to get better. You're going to get awesome. You're going to practice, because we are not made of magic. We are made of practice. So you're going to practice, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be a good time. You're going to be drawing. You're going to be learning. You're going to be practicing. You're going to ball some stuff up and pretend you play basketball. And then you're going to miss the waste paper basket and be like, I'm going to keep my day job because I am not good at the sports ball. Anyway, that's it. See you next time.